Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone out this evening to our regular scheduled city council meeting for today, April 7th, 2025. It's just after 6 o'clock p.m. We will begin this meeting with an invocation, as always, offered by Pastor Mike Holloman of the United Methodist Church. If you could please come forward. Thank you so much, sir. And if you could all please stand for that and then remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And let us pray. Loving God, we gather before you, acknowledging your presence in this room and in the hearts of all who serve our community. We give thanks for the opportunity to work together for the common good, guided by your principles of justice, compassion, and love. As leaders, humbly seek your wisdom and guidance. You deliberate on matters that affect the lives of all of our citizens. Remind us that your role is not just to legislate, but to serve, listen, advocate for the vulnerable and marginalized. Please see the dignity and worth of every person regardless of their background, beliefs, or circumstances. May you be a council that welcomes diversity, fosters inclusivity, and work toward a more equitable and just city for all. We pray that your strength and courage to make decisions that reflect your values and that serve the best interest of our community. May our actions be guided by love, wisdom, and a deep commitment to the well-being of all. In the name of Jesus, who came to serve and not be served, we ask for your blessings on this meeting and all who participate in it. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Pastor Mike, for being here and for that prayer. Really appreciate that, those words. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Yes. Doty?
Here.
Stotty?
Here.
Register?
Here.
Dittenberg?
Here.
Allgood?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
And thank you so much. So all council members are present and accounted for. We appreciate Councilor Allgood joining us via Zoom. I think it's Zoom or Teams, one of the two that he's out there. So we appreciate you joining us that way tonight, Councilor Allgood. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding an item on the agenda this evening? Okay, so we do have a few special presentations tonight. So the first one will be for the month of the military child. And is there anybody here in regards to that? Yes, do you mind coming forward and just tell us your name and kind of the mission of your program before we read this?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Morker, and I'm with the Idaho National Guard Child and Youth Program. The mission of Month of the Military Child is to recognize and honor the sacrifices that military youth have made with families being separated due to military deployments or any special missions that their parents are on. So this month recognizes resiliency and the sacrifices that our military children make. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. So I will read this. So we do have two proclamations this evening, so we'll go through both, and then we'll come down and present those and get some pictures at that time. So this one states, whereas April is the month of the military child, an opportunity to recognize military children for their resilient spirits, personal sacrifices, strong character, and courage. And whereas military children are part of the strength of our nation as they support and encourage their service members with a fierce patriotic spirit. And whereas these children are a source of pride for the great state of Idaho and to us all, and it is only fitting that we take time to recognize their contributions. And whereas military children continue to make significant contributions to family, community, and their nation as they endure prolonged and repeated absences of one or both parents. And whereas a month-long salute will recognize that military children serve too, and citizens of Idaho will be afforded the opportunity to don the color purple every Friday of April in support of these children. Now therefore, I, Jerem Wagner, Mayor of Caldwell, Idaho, do hereby proclaim April 2025 to be Month of the Military Child in the city of Caldwell, and urge each community member to take time and recognize these children. So thank you again for being here. And I think that it's very appropriate that we do recognize the sacrifices that are made by so many, and especially those kids that are out there with their parents serving the military. So as I mentioned, we do have another proclamation to read this evening. This is for the Fair Housing Proclamation. And do we have anybody here representing for the fair housing? It was from the city clerk. There we go. So it doesn't get any better than that from the city clerk. So I will read this as well. This states, whereas April 2025 marks the 57th anniversary of the passage of Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act. And whereas the Idaho Human Rights Commission Act has prohibited discrimination in housing since 1969, and whereas equal opportunity for all, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin, is a fundamental goal of our nation, state, and country. And whereas equal access to housing is an important component of this goal, as fundamental as the right to equal education and employment. And whereas housing is a critical component of family and community health and stability, and whereas housing choice impacts our children's access to education, our ability to seek and retain employment options, the cultural benefits we enjoy, the extent of our exposure to crime and drugs, and the quality of health care we receive in emergency. And whereas the laws of this nation and our state seek to ensure such equality of choice for all transactions involving housing, and whereas ongoing education, outreach, and monitoring are key to raising awareness of fair housing principles, practices, rights, and responsibilities. And whereas only through continued cooperation, commitment, and support of all Idahoans can barriers to fair housing be removed. Now, therefore, I, Jerem Wagoner, Mayor, do hereby proclaim April 2025 to be Fair Housing Month in the City of Caldwell, County of Canyon, State of Idaho. So thank you, Debbie, also for bringing that forward. Wherever there she is. So thank you. Have you come down? Yeah. So okay, perfect. And then, do you mind coming back up to receive this, and we can get a picture? So. Should we do one more? There we go. Thank you. Great. And thank you again for allowing us to recognize those two organizations and all that the good that they do and bring to our community. So our next special presentation, this is a report from the Audit Committee, our wonderful city treasurer, and Ide Bailey regarding the City of Caldwell audit and Employee Health Trust audit for the year ended September 30th, 2024. Very good. If you don't mind just stating your name for the record.
Yes, thank you. Bobby
And then
Lawrence,
sir.
representing Ide Bailey. I'm the audit partner. I have with me here Kelly Berge. She's the senior manager on the engagement. And Mayor Wagner, members of council, appreciate the opportunity to present this to you. You have before you those financial statements and another letter that we're required to issue to governments. I'm not going to refer to those, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have on specific pages in there, but I'm just going to give a high-level overview of the results. So the point of an audit is to go in and conduct a series of tests on the balances in your financial statements, and I know you have it in front of you, but that's a thick stack of information there. And first I want to thank Rochelle Castleberry and Raylan North, who couldn't be here tonight, for the great job that they do in preparing the information for us to audit that. It's a heavy lift and it takes a lot of effort, so thank you to them. And in that regard, we went through the audit and we did not have any what we call adjusting journal entries, things that were materially incorrect in your financial statements that required a correction. So that means the information that you're looking at, excuse me, all year long is good information and not something that's adjusted at year end to get to the right number. So because of that, this is what we call a clean or unmodified opinion on the financial statements, and that means they are materially correct in accordance with GAAP. And also in connection with this audit, we have to audit your federal funds. So this year you had 3 major programs that required audit. About 11.9 million total federal funds. We audited 11.1 million of that. So most of those dollars go running through there. The biggest one was a large program, then a couple of smaller programs that were just over the threshold limit. So in relation to that audit of federal funds, there were also no findings to report to you from any of the federal funds standpoint. There is a finding in the very back of that financial statement that is kind of a carryover from last year, and that was some lost revenue in regard to impact fees. We did test through that conversion process. That has been corrected, but there was a trailing period where it was still in process when we encountered it last year during the audit. So nothing to report to you there other than the item that you had. In the letter, there is also a page that lists some what we call past adjustments. These were 3 things that were not material, didn't require correction, but we're just required to bring those to your attention. So minor things that, year-end closing procedures that we noted. So that was the financial statement audit. On the health trust audit that was mentioned as well, we didn't have any findings in relation to that. That was a clean opinion as well on those financial statements, and that's in your packet also. Rochelle has more detailed financial information that I'll turn over to her to reconcile some of this report to the information used to go forward on, but happy to stand for any questions you have on the results of the audit at this point.
Any questions? Councilor Stoddick.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let Bobby know he and his group did a very nice job the other day when we met with you, and we appreciate it, and Rochelle and Raylene too. Your information is only good as what you get in and put in the books, and I think everything went quite well.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilor Stoddick, and thank you so much for all your work and effort.
Thank you.
You guys do a great job. Appreciate that. Rochelle, what additional from you, or? Okay, very good.
Thank you for being here tonight. I have the financial statements, and as Bobby said, that they were a clean opinion, and so no uncorrected or corrected misstatements, no disagreements arose with management. It was a pretty good audit. I think it went really smooth, and they're wonderful to work with. So I created a slideshow here just to give some highlights and a little bit more detail that isn't quite presented exactly on the financial statements. I do have pages referenced within this so that you guys can reference those pages as we go through this to identify where I am tying the numbers back to the financial statements. So I want to talk about governmental funds first. On this slide here, the governmental funds consist of the general fund, the street fund, our debt service funds, and other governmental funds. The other governmental funds include our business improvement district, the CDBG grant fund, cemetery, economic development, library, airport, and parks and rec. And over to the right, you can see the current year increases or decreases. This year we had increases in all except for economic development. That was a planned decrease in economic development. We used some additional fund balance in that fund to assist in preparing the TVCC Center and getting it ready for move-in. And this next slide here shows the fund balance. These numbers include the previous numbers, the current year increases or decreases. So even though we had a decrease in economic development, you can see here on the far left that the balance for the economic development fund balance is still $179,869. And so there still is remaining funds. The rest of this kind of gives a little bit of a breakdown of what we do with all these funds. Our fund balance totaling for the governmental funds is 82.1 million in fund balance. But out of that, we have a lot of restricted uses. And so in the middle column, you have the general fund just broken down. So you'll notice if this total here is 45 million for the general fund. Within the general fund, we have restricted uses of that fund balance for our capital funds, our impact fee funds, police capital and operations, fire capital and operations, and then we have a 30% reserve that we hold on to. We also use this to fund additional projects, and so we have about $9.4 million in additional projects that we have in the current year planned use of those funds, which leaves us with approximately $4.2 million of additional funds within the general government funds that can be used for future use. I break down the use of fund balance again in a little bit of a different way in this final column to your right. The totals here do equal the 82.1 million as listed on the left, but I identify that out of that 82, 33 million is for planned projects, 16 million is held in reserves, and 27.1 million is restricted by use, meaning that the individual funds have an amount in there that can only be used for that purpose. Out of the 27.1 that's restricted, there's 11.7 million in there for the fire bond that we just went to. So we have additional cash on hand because we received that, but we have expenditures that are planned to come down. So even though it may look like there's a significant amount of fund balance here for use, a lot of this is restricted to projects and specific sources that we have to spend the money on. Library here, it shows this is the remaining amount that's after any restricted uses or planned projects. They've got 1.8. Impact fee funds in total is 6.2. Remaining after projects and reserves, fire capitals 1.6, police capitals 213, city capitals 1.1, airport is 767,528, Parks and Rec is 1.1 million, community development 41, cemetery is 2.3 million, and the BID holds on to all of theirs as restricted for BID purposes. So that leaves us with the same unrestricted balance, but gives you a little bit more of an overview of where the fund balance is that we have and the planned uses that we have for it within each of the special revenue funds, as well as within our general fund. And this next slide is going to tie back to the planned projects. So on this slide here, on the planned projects, we have 33.5 million of planned projects, and this slide gives kind of a detailed list of what those planned projects are. So these are planned projects in the current fiscal year 2025 budget that we are currently working on. To the left, you see general fund projects, and to the right, you see special revenue fund projects. So we have 14 million in general fund projects. Some of the bigger items on there are the pool. We've got 2 new parks that we plan to do. We got a CNR announcers box, and we've also got some money set aside for police operations, new playground equipment, new police vehicles, fire vehicles, et cetera. In the special revenue funds, some of the bigger items, most of that is streets. I'd say half the projects in the special revenue funds are for street projects that are planned, and then we have some smaller projects for cemetery, library, and fire. So that's all I have for the governmental funds. Before I move on to the enterprise funds, do you guys have any questions?
Counselor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rochelle, the quiet zone, we had designated funds for that. Should that not have been on that last slide as well?
It potentially is. Some projects on here don't include rollovers, so I think that was a rollover project because it wasn't completed in fiscal year '24. So that would be a project. I didn't. It could be that we're using some of current year revenue to offset the projects that we now have. I'd have to check with Raylene, being the one that budgets all that, to see exactly how she planned for that funding source.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested where that money went if it's not in here, so I can send you an email to follow up on that.
Sure,
if that
yes,
helps.
please do, so I remember, and then I'll follow up with her to identify
Thank
where
you.
she's coming from, that funding source.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that question. Okay.
Okay. All right, so the enterprise funds, I went off cash balances for enterprise. They're a little easier, it's a little easier to understand and represent. Fund balance for the governmental funds is very similar to cash, and so it's okay to use that fund balance. But for enterprise, we don't go off cash basis on the financials, and so it's easier to reflect off their cash balances when identifying how much they have for future expenditures. So this is current year activity within our enterprise funds. We have water, sewer, sanitation. In our smaller enterprise funds, we have golf, streetlights, irrigation. These are the increases and decreases for the current year. So water came in at just a little over 449,486 increase in cash. Sewer had 9.1 million increase in cash. Sanitation did have a negative. That was a planned decrease. We were able to give out a rebate last year under sanitation and give a little bit back to the account holders as a discount for that. So that was planned use of fund balance. Golf was at a negative 121 in cash, 121,000. Streetlights was positive 430,000 approximately. Irrigation was positive 297,000. These are the fund or cash balance totals at the end of the year for the enterprise funds. So again, these numbers include the increases or decreases previously explained. You can see here there are no negatives in the financial statement cash balances. But we do also have planned projects, an amount held for reserves, and amounts restricted by fund. And so these are all restricted by fund, so we don't really have like an undesignated amount like we do in the general fund that can kind of be used for any government-related activity here. So all of this is restricted by fund, meaning that the excess has to be used in relation to the fund itself and the purpose of that fund. So we have planned projects here of 28.4 million. We have 13.2 held for reserves, and we have 16.1 restricted by fund, which is the amount that's remaining after projects and reserves. You will notice that water is at a negative. The rest are at a positive, meaning that we are planning to spend not all of the available funding. Water will be dipping into a little bit of their reserve this upcoming year if we actually get all the projects done that we do plan to get back. So that's that. And then again, on this slide, I have a detailed list of the planned projects. So you have about 7 million in projects for streetlights, irrigation, and water, and about 21 million in projects budgeted for the sewer. So we are planning to spend quite a bit of money in the sewer department on a lot of big major projects there. And that is what I have for the enterprise funds. Do you guys have any questions on that?
Okay, looks good.
Okay. Lastly, as Bobby mentioned, this is our CFA, which is Schedule of Expenditures for Federal Awards. We had 11.7 million received last year in federal funding, received and used last year. So we had four major programs, 3 that had to be within the audit, and then I also included an additional program here just because the dollar value was high enough. ARPA funds, we spent 9.5 million. ITD Airport Improvement Program, we spent 810,000 approximately. CDBG, we spent 755,000 approximately. And then our SAFERS grant was 602,000 approximately. So those are the totals. It was a very high year for federal awards. We normally don't see this that high. I do expect that in the upcoming years we will see this number decline significantly as there's only a couple million left in the ARPA funding. CDBG will likely be a little bit less this year just because we haven't had much activity. Airport program, I think, will be a little bit less, but still fairly active. And the SAFERS grant will be closing out this year, so that we may see just a tad bit less in that. And that's what I have for the CFA. Any questions on that?
Excellent. Any other questions for Rochelle? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate all that you do, all the work and effort throughout the entire year. And I'd Bailey, thank you again. It's nice to get a clean report. So thanks to Rochelle and Raylyn on that very much, and your staff as well. You have incredible staff in there. So thank you so much. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves us to audience participation, and we not have anybody signed up under that this evening. So that'll move us into, I know we do have one change, but it does not affect the consent calendar, so we go ahead and approve that, and we'll then move into that amendment after that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Doty,
make a motion to approve the consent calendar as printed.
do we have a second? Second. Motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddick for approval of the consent calendar. Any discussion on that motion? With that, voting is open at this time.
We don't have our,
Well, maybe not. You're not retired yet, Debbie, so. Just for that, you have 1 year added to your sentence. You can't retire till next year now. Probably this decade. Okay, so with that, voting is open. Counselor Allgood, hopefully it's working for you at home.
Mr. Mayor, so far it is not. I haven't been let in from the waiting room yet.
I think we are working on that. Eddie, is that? Oh, okay. So in regards to that, so could we just ask for his vote? So Counselor Allgood, how do you vote in regards to that motion?
Yes.
Yes, okay, very good. So with that, it is a unanimous decision, and the consent calendar is approved. And then we do have an amendment in regards to the agenda this evening.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Doty.
make a motion to amend the rest of the agenda under new business, remove item number 4 from new business as requested by staff.
Very good. We have a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Denber to remove item number 4 at this time from new business. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, so that moves us into, there is no old business, so it jumps us right into new business. So new business item number 1 is a vacation request. Very good. The time is yours, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Back again. Joseph Dodson, Principal Planner here at the City of Caldwell. This is a quick presentation, I hope, for a vacation request. It's called the Sarek Vacation, also 1209 Andy Lane Vacation. The subject site is located on the east side of Interstate 84, in between the airport and 2026. It is directly south of 1209 Andy Lane. There was some discrepancy in the submittal package about which right-of-way was there, but just to clarify, it is right-of-way that's on the south side of this property, not right-of-way that was acquired through the annexation process for Andy Lane. Through this image, you can tell that this is a 50-foot, give or take, 50-foot wide by 500-ish feet, 480 feet long vacation request. Through that, agencies were notified. Utility providers did not provide any comments or objection to it. Idaho Power already maintains easements over here because they have overhead power lines. They just said they were going to maintain their easement, and that was it. Traffic Commission met on this approximately a month ago, and they recommended approval with the requirement that the right-of-way be split between property owner that submitted the application and the property owner to the south, so it'll be 25 feet width to each property owner. And then this vacation request was notified, or was noticed per state statute to adjacent property owners. And that's really it. So it's just a vacation request for this right-of-way. There's no utilities in it. There's no plan for the city to utilize this. It's from one of the original plats from like 1930. So it's just been sitting there this whole time.
We're going to start taxing it. So, no offense, but I think that's where we're at. Any questions? Counselor Doty?
Mr. Mayor, that's kind of where I was going, not quite that direct, but what is the benefit to the city by, I guess, giving a vacation on this property?
As the mayor put it, no, I won't say that. But right now it is just sitting, technically the applicant, the property owner is already using the land because there's not fencing out there. Benefit would be that it would be to two property owners that we can now obtain tax income from, that we can now regulate more appropriately on the properties. There's no utilities in there for the city to maintain anyway, so there's no real need to maintain and keep the right-of-way on our rolls. So
And it's difficult for us to maintain, right, with weeds
Yes.
and things of that nature. So.
absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep, for sure. Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we do have one individual signed up, but not to testify. Nikolai, hopefully I got that right, is here. Very good. And are you the applicant requesting or the property owner on it? Okay, very good. Did you wish to say anything? Okay, excellent. Very good. So with that, I'd stand for a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
Got a couple, so Counselor Stodic and I think Counselor Dittenberg was a tie, so we'll give Counselor Stodic for the motion and Counselor Dittenberg with the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And that motion passes, and so with that, it moves it to council for your either discussion or decision,
Finish it up? Oh, I'm gonna finish it up? Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Counselor Doty.
I move to approve case number BAC 24-01, a request to vacate the right-of-way along the south boundary for 1209 Andy Lane.
Give a second. So it's a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stodic for approval of the vacation request. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I still can't vote, but I'm a yes.
Okay, very good. So Counselor Allgood is a yes, and all votes, other votes has been cast, and those are yeses as well, so that passes unanimously. And that moves us into action item number 2. This is for a preliminary plat request, and Morgan, this is turn it over to you for your presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Morgan Besop, Planning and Zoning. I was just handing out a late exhibit for Barnwood subdivision, which I will be presenting this evening. It is just a modified engineering report. It was also emailed to you earlier this afternoon. There's just one small clarification about which streets this parcel has access from that were being clarified. So, handing that out. Okay, as I mentioned, this is Barnwood subdivision. Some of the references in the agency comments might reference Timbers subdivision. The applicant originally submitted an application proposed as Timbers, and based on comments from Fire in the county, they had to change their name. So just providing that clarification as well in case you see a reference to Timbers in any of the comments. The application before you this evening is for preliminary plat 2406. The project location is on the southwest corner of East Linden Street and South KICD. As you can see there, it's immediately adjacent to the airport. It is 15.69 acres, and the parcel has frontage on East Linden Street as well as South KCID Road. The conditions surrounding the subject site are depicted in the image in front of you. It is primarily industrial with airport to the south, as well as some residential to the northeast. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the parcel into 5 industrial lots and 1 common lot. So even though I am referencing a preliminary plat for a subdivision, it's an industrial subdivision, all industrial uses, no residential. The new subdivision will remain M1 light industrial. It is already zoned that, it's already part of the city, so no changes to the comp plan or zoning are proposed tonight, just a preliminary plat. The subject site was annexed into the city of Caldwell in 2000 with a light industrial M1 zoning district. The site currently houses Montana Timber Products Building, which is projected to remain, as well as 2 residential structures off East Linden, which are now planned for removal. Additionally, there's an irrigation pump house pad on the site, which is intended to house a pressurized irrigation system, which will be dedicated to the city of Caldwell. Within the new comprehensive plan, you can see the site designated there in purple. This is the employment center place type. This proposes that light industrial uses are compatible with this designation, as the employment center area is intended to provide a strong employment base for Caldwell residents, and the light industrial use will support this goal by contributing to the local employment opportunities. You can see in the zoning map in front of you that this parcel is zoned M1, light industrial. As I mentioned, many of the parcels surrounding it are zoned similarly, and then the airport is designated in red. It is also located within the APO1 airport overlay. The industrial subdivision isn't allowed use on this property and within that overlay. It has been sent to airport for review. Staff has informed the applicant that the property owner will have to record an navigation easement on this parcel because it is in the APO1 overlay, and they are aware of that and have agreed to that, and that'll be designated on the final plat. The proposed development project has been analyzed for compliance with the city codes and policies, and staff finds that the proposed development has adequate site access. It'll be accessed from South KCID Road via a private internal drive, Timbers Lane, which will provide east-west access through the site. You can sort of see that line there going east-west halfway or a third of the way down. Montana Timbers is that one developed parcel that kind of has a purple hue. The applicant has provided adequate trees, shrubs, and turf within the street landscape buffers on Linden and South KCID. Those are either constructed or will be constructed. There are no additional structures proposed at this time. Parking, landscaping, all that would be reviewed at time of building permit for the undeveloped sites. And the proposed development is in compliance with all other zoning and subdivision ordinances. This application was provided to all agencies for comment. Engineering, mapping, and fire all provided general conditions of approval but had no major concerns. ITD noted that the project does not require a TIS, and no public comments were received. The hearing examiner at the March 11th public hearing recommended approval of the preliminary plat for Barnwood subdivision. Staff does, however, recommend adding one additional condition of approval, which is prior to signature of the final plat, all residential structures shall be removed from the site. The applicant has mentioned that they intend to remove those. We just want to make sure that before we plat this as an industrial subdivision, all residential structures are gone. And I would stand for any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions from council at this time? Okay, do not see any. Thank you so much. Okay, so we do have only 2 people signed up to testify on this item, both in favor. So Mr. Giuliani and then Elizabeth. I don't know if you have a preferential order, if who goes first. Okay, very good. So if you'll just state your name for the record, and then you will have 10 minutes if you wish to take it all.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council, and thank you to Morgan and support for preparation presentation. My name is John Giuliani, business address 2618 South KCID here in Caldwell. I'll just be brief. I appreciate the comments. It's, I think, fairly straightforward. I also want to acknowledge the support that we've received from the City of Caldwell's Economic Development Office through the duration of our time in Caldwell. Most of you know me from other items which will be discussed a little later, but I just want to emphasize the support we've received from the city and how appreciative we are of it. We moved our business down here 12 years ago, and you'll see it's Montana Timber Products. You'll see that on the preliminary plat. At that point in time, we didn't have a place to land, and we called the Economic Development Office, and Steve Foltz helped us find our first building over on Arthur Street, and we didn't have any employees. We hired our first one. He still works for us, and through the pandemic, our business just exploded, and we needed another location. And so we called again, and Stephen Jenkins helped us find this location. So our intended use, we've built over the last few years, we built a 35,000 square foot facility. With this subdivision, once it's complete, we'll have complementary uses to our businesses, what our objective is. We're using few of the lots right now for outside storage, and the lots fronting Linden will be for complementary business use. So happy to take any questions that you may have regarding the Barnwood subdivision.
Very good. Thank you so much, John. Any questions, Councilor Doty?
Just one, thank you. Are you okay with the one additional requirement by staff to remove any residential?
Yeah, that would be our intended. There was 3 houses. We've taken 1 down, and we'll take the other 2 down.
Any other questions? Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Giuliani, I just want to be sure, we got a late exhibit from the engineering department. Have you been able to look at that?
Yeah, I did, and
Everything's
that's,
clear for you
yeah,
on that?
I have, yeah, and that's one of the things, and I appreciate the attention to the, and the addendum on that. Yeah, it's just for access, you know.
Okay.
We have an agreement with the city right now that allows access off of the future Smead Parkway extension, which may or not be called Smead Parkway on the southeast side. So we wanted to make sure we ensured our opportunity to continue that, should it be needed in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay.
Mr.
Building
Mayor.
looks great, by the way, so out there, so.
Yeah,
great
it's
job
been
on
a,
it.
yeah, today, I don't know if I mentioned it, we've got 85, almost 100 employees, and it's been, Caldwell's been a good home for us. So it's been a good run. Hopefully we can keep it going.
Excellent. I think I heard Counselor Allgood may have a question.
Sure.
Counselor Allgood?
Yes, I was just curious if the lots in this subdivision are going to be leased to individuals or sold?
Our objective is to lease them. We'll use 2 of them for our existing business, and the front ones that are adjacent to Linden, it's our hope that we can build facilities that complement our business or other businesses that we might have and/or have them available for lease to tenants.
Okay, so you'll remain the owner of the whole complex, pretty much?
Yes, that's our hope. I can't state that that will happen forever, but for foreseeable future, it is our goal.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet.
Yeah, okay, thank you, John, appreciate it. Okay, Elizabeth? You're good? Okay, excellent, very good. So with that, I said as I mentioned, there's nobody else signed up a neutral in opposition, so we'd stand for a motion to close public testimony. And a second. So motion from Counselor Stoddard and a second from Counselor Dittenberg. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? And that motion passes. So with that, turn it over to council for your deliberation or any motions, or if you do have any questions for staff, they're always available as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Doty.
based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the city of Caldwell, the Caldwell City Council hereby orders that case number SPP 24-06, a request by John Giuliani, preliminary plot approval of a 6-lot industrial subdivision at 5104 East Linden Street is approved with the one additional request by staff.
So is a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard with approval of the request with the conditions as outlined and the one additional condition as mentioned by staff. Any discussion on that motion? So with that, voting is open at this time, and we'll get your vote here in a second, Counselor Allgood. Okay, so all votes are cast, so we'll go ahead and display that. And Counselor Allgood, how do you wish to vote?
Yes.
So Counselor Allgood is a yes, as are everyone else here in the room. And so with that, that passes unanimously. Stand for motion to close this public hearing item. In a second. All those in favor say aye. And that was the motion from Counselor Stoddard and a second from Counselor Williams to close that. That will move us into item number 3, and that is this is another quasi-judicial for a preliminary plat and development agreement modification in regards to Canyon Crossing number 2. Morgan, looks like it's all you. Thank you.
Okay, good evening again. Morgan Besod, Planning and Zoning. The application I'll be presenting this evening is Canyon Crossing Number 2 subdivision, preliminary plat 2404, and development agreement modification 2408. The project location is 5.5 acres. It is addressed as 0 Syringa Lane and is located on the southwest corner of Syringa Lane and South Florida Avenue. You can see that highlighted in red on the screen. The project site is currently surrounded by single-family residential on all sides. On 3 sides. To the south is Phase 1, which includes 4plexes. There are also a wide variety of residential and commercial uses when you go a little bit further out, especially across the interstate to the south. These are the approved developments in the area. As you can see, immediately adjacent to the site, it is primarily an older residential area that has been developed for many years. Immediately to the south is Canyon Crossing Number 1, which was 44 dwelling units. I believe it was 11 fourplex units. Prospector Point, which is multifamily, has 504 dwelling units, but that is across the interstate. And then you get further and further out, and you get some of the newer single-family subdivision development to the north. The applicant this evening is requesting preliminary plat approval for Canyon Crossing Number 2 subdivision, a residential subdivision with 20 duplex lots. This parcel was intended originally as the second phase of Canyon Crossing subdivision, which was approved by council on September 6, 2016. All of the horizontal infrastructure has been completed for this project, so that's a little bit different than most of the preliminary plats that you see in front of you where there's no development. In this case, all horizontal, so the roads, water, sewer, sidewalk, landscaping, open space, has been completed. However, the original entitlements expired in November of 2022, so the applicant is required to reapply for preliminary plat approval. A development agreement modification has also been submitted, in addition, to permit the additional duplex lots on the property. The property is zoned R2, medium residential, and duplexes are directly permitted use in this zone. However, the original development agreement included 15 single-family units and 5 duplex lots, and so the modification request is to change it to all duplex lots, and we just wanted to have that recorded in the development agreement. There was nothing in the development agreement that was existing that prohibited duplex lots. As I mentioned, it included 5, but we wanted to make sure that it referenced the appropriate application numbers and it had a correct version of the plat. So 20 duplex lots, 40 dwelling units on 5.5 acres provides a density of 7.2 dwelling units per acre, which is within the allowed density for this area. This phase of the development also provides all of the amenities for the previously constructed Phase 1 of Canyon Crossing subdivision to the south. And without Phase 2, the residents of Phase 1 do not have any of the required open space or amenities, because as I mentioned, all their open space and amenities were located in Phase 2. So when those entitlements expired, they no longer had access to those things that were originally part of their approvals. These are photos of the site, so that is the road that they have out there through the development, the sidewalks. That is the playground, so it has been installed, the open space, the street buffers. Just a little bit more background on what happened between those entitlements expiring and today, because it is really unusual. So, as I mentioned, that preliminary plat was approved in 2016. There was one time extension. Following that, the approvals expired. When they came in to potentially record their final plat for Phase 2 in fall of, or maybe it was spring of 23, they realized that their entitlements had just expired the previous fall. They submitted a plat renewal application, and that plat renewal application was denied by City Council in March of 2024. And so because that plat renewal and time extension was denied by Council, that is why they went back to get the preliminary entitlements. But they already had approved construction drawings. They had already completed basically all of the work through those original entitlements. So it's very different than most preliminary plats that you see. As I mentioned, duplexes are directly permitted in the R2 zone, so they don't need to have any special requests for SUPs or anything like that. So here's the zoning map. You can see that it is zoned R2 medium density residential. That's not a proposed change. That's how they were zoned probably back in 2016, although most of the area surrounding them is zoned R1 low density residential. However, you can also see in the comprehensive plan that this parcel and all of the surrounding parcels are projected to be neighborhood 2, and neighborhood 2 is compatible with R1 as well as R2 zoning designations. As I mentioned, they're proposing a density of 7.2 dwelling units per acre, which is compatible with the comprehensive plan. The neighborhood 2 anticipates a density between 2 units per acre and 8 units per acre, so they are within that range. The original plan, which included those 5 duplex units and 15 single family, came in at closer to 4.4 dwelling units per acre. However, the neighborhood 2 designation also anticipates share-walled residents, a variety of housing types, and does encourage infill development, which this project would meet the criteria for infill development. The proposed development project has been analyzed for compliance with city codes and policies, and staff finds that the proposed development is in compliance with all parking and landscaping requirements. The proposed development is in compliance with all bulk standards for lot size, setback, frontage, and height of buildings, as well as compliance with all other zoning subdivision ordinances. Regarding access and public services, the proposed development will have adequate site access and all utilities are available or will be available as outlined in the engineering staff report. The project was notified to all agencies, no comments or concerns. We did receive 4 comments from the public. We had none at P&Z, but between P&Z and now, we had 4 letters or emails, and all of them were expressing concern regarding the change of the 15 single-family units to duplex units. On December 3rd, the hearing examiner recommended approval of the application, and staff recommends that if the council approves the request, that it just be subject to the conditions and findings of fact in your staff report. And that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you so much. Questions from council? Councilor Williams? No? Okay. Maybe just real quick, did you mention that that sewer and water have been installed? The street looks like it has, but
It
sewer
has.
line, water lines have been
Yes.
installed as well already?
So this is the preliminary plat for Phase 2. You can see where the lots fall, the road. And so nothing is actually changing to this plat. There are no real required changes on a plat to have a single-family home versus a duplex. So the plat looks almost identical to the way it came in originally. And yes, water and sewer were provided. We discussed it with engineering. There was no changes required from sewer and water going in with the anticipated to be 5 duplexes and 15 single-family. No changes were required to accommodate all duplex. So water and sewer are in.
Okay, perfect. Councilor Williams does have a question.
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor. Morgan, what would this project look like if the codes we are considering tonight in our workshop were to be passed? I have a feeling these elevations look a little different and the landscaping would look a little different as well.
The landscaping would definitely look a little bit different. It looked like in that image it was, 90% sod, and I think that there's going to be a cap on a certain amount of sod and street buffers in the new code, so it might have some more shrubs and flowers. But regarding, the multifamily? So there would be the multifamily code section, but off the top of my head, I don't know exactly how that would affect their elevations, but there would be different codes that would be applicable, and that is true.
And I appreciate that. The concern I have is several projects in that immediate area have been a problem to me, and I don't know, there's still more to be heard tonight, but if I was to consider this, I would want to somehow require those potential codes to be included as a condition of approval for this project. If this council were to approve it, that it would meet our new codes and not sneak in under the wire, so to speak.
So even if we had held onto this application for another month and delayed the hearing or something like that, applications are typically subject to the codes at the time they submit the application and not at the time of their hearing date. And so they would just have to comply with the codes that were applicable on the day they submitted their application. If you had something, like an annexation or a rezone or a special use permit, you could definitely make those conditions. And potentially, because there is the DA mod, you could do some of those. But the DA mod really is not very substantial. It's just changing the application numbers and the number of units. But
Okay.
I would definitely defer to the attorney to make sure that regardless of how substantial the DA mod was, that you could provide some of those
I think I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
conditions.
And then, real quick before we get to you, just kind of going off of that, so you said the multifamily would apply, but I thought that was only if it was 3 or more, like a triplex or more. With the duplex, would that still apply, or would it be not the does that make sense? Just clarifying that.
Mayor and city council, it would be applicable, because the way it's written is I think it's 3 or more, or no, it's 5 or more dwelling units in a development.
Yeah, I think it's 3 units on one parcel or 5 units in the project. So even though these are duplex, I believe because there's more than 5 lots that would have duplexes, it would
Yes.
trigger. There's sort of 2 catches.
Very good, just want to make sure on that. Counselor Denver?
Morgan, I have a question. The lots to the south of this are some pretty, let me say it politely, unattractive apartments that are along the roadway. And so I kind of echo Councilor Williams' sentiment that, are we going to get something much more attractive than what's along the freeway there in this lot?
You know, I didn't put the elevations in this PowerPoint. I do think that they have a little bit more variation than the fourplexes to the south. But I'm not really here to comment on the quality of an elevation, since at this moment we don't have design review criteria for elevations. So I did not put anything in the report speaking to that.
Follow up?
I have a point of clarification from our attorney, if you could answer. If this was postponed and reconsidered at a later date, is what the applicant is saying is they would be required to comply with the old zoning ordinances, or would they be required to comply with the new zoning ordinance if this was to be postponed?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Dittenberg, I believe since the application was in at this time under these effective criteria, that would be going forward what they would be qualified, would to be entitled to. I would defer to the planning and zoning director too, to weigh in on that, but that would be I would advise against doing something of that nature.
Any other questions from Morgan at this time?
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor?
Oh, yes, Councilor Algen.
Yeah, Morgan, I don't know if you have any of this information off the top of your head. Do you have any idea how many complaints we've received on this property over the past few years?
On this undeveloped portion for Phase 2, I'm not aware that we've received complaints. I'd have to go through our files. None jump out at me for this parcel. Potentially some of the parcels to the south in the original Phase 1, which is not part of the application this evening. We're only hearing an application on this new subdivision because now that it is a new preliminary plat, they're not actually connected. I will say that some of the complaints we have received, though, for the phase to the south, the first phase, was that they never got their amenities, they never got their open space, they never got their walking paths, and that's because this Phase 2 had not been completed. And so now that it has been constructed, they do have access to the open space, amenities, pathways that they were originally promised. So hopefully that helps smooth over some of those complaints that we have received from the parcel to the south.
Do you have any other questions, Councilor Allgood? Councilor Allgood, did you have any other questions? Were you able to hear that?
I was able to hear most of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Excuse me, okay, I don't see any other questions for you, Morgan, at this time, thank you so much. Excuse me. Okay, so we do have one person signed up in favor, Mr. Giuliani, so if you don't mind coming forward and you just state your name, and if Elizabeth has wanted speaking as well, she can, and I don't know if you want her to go first, or yourself, or?
Yeah. John Giuliani, 2618 South KCID,
And then
Caldwell,
you'll
Idaho.
have 10 minutes, sorry to interrupt you, so.
Yeah, and so Morgan, we have Dan Sharp online who couldn't attend because of, he's recently had surgery, so he's our engineer. So
Okay.
my comment would be that we'd like to have him present.
Okay, oh, perfect, excellent, yeah, and he is online, you said?
Yes, he's online.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm online. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have sent in a presentation. There's a lag on the video, so if I could have Morgan put it on to move it to the first slide, and I'll call the slides to move, if that would work for you.
Perfect. Do you have that presentation? So did you email that presentation in, or?
We did. You've had some of them in this presentation to you already, but we did email the presentation in. I don't believe I can share, or can I share my screen with you? Would that work? Or do you have access to
I'm
that?
seeing a head nod from our IT, so it sounds like yes.
Okay, I'll share my screen. And tell me when you see the presentation come up.
So yes, we do see the presentation come up.
Okay, so Canyon Crossing number 2, this is the
And then, sorry,
installation.
just real quick, if you could just state your name for the record,
Yes.
so we have that in address, and then you'll have 10 minutes.
You bet. My name is Daniel Sharp. I'm at 3554 East 17th Street in Ammon, Idaho. I am the engineer on the project. John Giuliani is my client. What we have been, Morgan did a good job explaining the history behind this project, where we're at. This is a very unique situation that we're in, and that all of the improvements have been made, including water, sewer, streets, sidewalks, playgrounds, and sports pads. As part of this presentation, John wanted me to very clearly show you what has been shown here, or what has been installed. So if you can see, this first slide is what we call the tot lot. The tot lot is located in between, or in the western and southern corner of the subdivision. Following on, this is a different view of the tot lot. This is looking to the east on the bottom right of the picture. The upper left of the picture is looking more towards the west as the tot lot is being installed. You can see the sidewalk is in, you can see the playground is placed, and the bark is in place around the playground. Also that the grass has been placed and is growing. The views of the lot, we have similar. You've seen some of these in your presentation already, but these are viewing from Hollyhock Avenue and Syringa and the Florida intersection. The trees are in place. What's that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Sorry.
There's nothing said.
Trees are in place. The grass is in place. The fence is up. All of these comply with the city code. On Syringa Lane, you can see the fence is up, and along Syringa Lane, we've got the grass and the trees and a small berm in place. The layout of the subdivision from the aerial, if you'll notice, this is a Google imagery of 2025. This gives you a fairly good idea of what's actually green space and in place. What we have in the center of the subdivision, that's the dog park that is placed and fenced. We have what's called Crest Line on Google is actually Syringa Lane per the city's maps. You can see the landscape buffer along Syringa Lane as well as along Florida Lane. Or Florida Avenue, excuse me. You can see the half basketball court that's been installed just west of Florida Avenue, and the tot lot from the aerial view. It's a round tot lot that you can see there on the west side in the corner. The zoning map that we're showing here, we're in the R2 zone map. This was the original zone map that we have. So we're complying with the zoning of the city's code. We are also showing the comprehensive plan, that this didn't change for us in the comprehensive plan that is current at this time. The subdivision layout looks like this at this point. We have these two lots where the open space and the playgrounds are at, as well as the duplexes showing along Snapdragon Avenue and Hollyhock Avenue and Xena Street. This is the landscape plan. You've already seen that in action. On the common lots, there are trees, excuse me, for some reason that changed. There are trees planned for on the lots themselves that have not been installed, obviously, as the lots have not been developed yet. The elevation of the proposed duplex units, this is the one rendering of the elevations. This is a kind of a tan color of exterior finish on this. The other option is this darker finish color for the duplex lots. Renderings of Hollyhock and Snapdragon Avenue, what they will look like with the lots installed, with the duplexes on the lots. And then these are additional renderings from the dog park. Starting at the top left, you've got the dog park from Syringa looking down at the dog park. You can see the duplexes around the dog park. On the dog park from lot 4, it's a similar view, but you're looking at Syringa. You can see Syringa in the background behind the trees, and then going that direction. The tot lot, and then the half basketball court. Those are the presentations I have. It's fairly simple. Morgan did a good job showing what we had done to this point. I just wanted to emphasize that this complies with the city codes, the zoning, and the comp plan, and that all of the infrastructure is currently in, and we're ready to move forward with city approval.
Thank you so much, appreciate that. Any questions from council for Mr. Sharp? Okay, I don't see any, so thank you so much, but stand by, we may have questions later on, so appreciate that presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Giuliani, or Elizabeth, okay. So if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Elizabeth Kekaritz, Land Use Council, 601 Bannock, Boise, Idaho, here on behalf of MTP and John Giuliani. I don't really have planned presentation or remarks. I'm here in large part to answer any questions you may have. But I would just like to emphasize that this really is something that has been in the works since 2016. All of the infrastructure is installed. Everything is ready to go here. And at this point in time, we are talking about a preliminary plat, which there really are just 5 findings to be made on this. Is the plat in compliance with city code? It absolutely is. It meets all the dimensional standards, all the setbacks, all the landscaping that's been required. It exceeds the open space requirements. Is the plat considered consistent with the comp plan? Again, it absolutely is consistent with the comp plan. It was designated medium density residential before. It's now neighborhood 2. They're very, very similar with the sort of requirements surrounding them. The public services and utilities are available. They've already been installed. Fire, police, EMS, schools, no one's had any real concerns with this. Is the plat consistent with the city transportation master plan? Again, the streets are in. It is consistent with that plan. And does the subdivision, I'm having a hard time talking, does the subdivision preserve natural, scenic, or historic features, if applicable, if the site is being developed? And in this case, I believe it was argued and agreed a long time ago that there were none of those sort of historic or particularly scenic views on this property. The DA modification, while not necessarily required, was something that we agreed just made sense to do, because it's always nice in the future when you're going back through documents to actually have your case numbers match with what gets recorded on the property. It could go forward without that. Duplexes are an allowed use in this zone, but we did want to just clean things up and make it better for moving forward so everyone could figure out what exactly was going on where. And with that, I would stand for any questions. We're excited to finally finish this and get some houses built here.
Very good, thank you so much. Questions, Councilor Register?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So are the apartments behind there also the same, from the same developer then?
Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Register, yes, they were.
Okay. And I don't know if we're even allowed to ask this question, but was there, I guess I'm trying to figure out why the change from single-family homes to adding in more duplexes?
Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Register. I believe it was in going back and just reviewing what the city's housing needs were, in talking to staff members with economic development, with Mr. Giuliani's own development and his commercial industrial development, and his inability to find good housing for his own employees. It was something that made a lot of sense to him at the time.
Okay, because I'm trying to remember, so somebody will probably have to remind me, but I feel like when the extension came up before, and I could be wrong, but so I'm kind of relying on other people's memories, but I feel like when that came up, that part of the reason why it was denied was because I think he he wanted it, and then he postponed it, and then I think he didn't come to that meeting, and it was almost like there wasn't an investment in what was going on. And I'm concerned, I share Counselor Williams' concerns about the landscaping and also just the kind of the way that it looks. And if we're going to have a repeat of the apartments and what those look like, because obviously planning and zoning has worked so hard on this comp plan to try to elevate all of these projects that are coming, and are we now going to have one come in before that takes place? I understand the rules with that, and have the same problem we have with the apartments that he has behind there. So my question, I guess, to planning and zoning is, these, as far as I can tell from the presentation, there's one color, and I think we just learned in the comp plan that if those ordinances were in, they would have to be 3 colors. Is that right? So, but this is a one color thing, right? There's, I mean, as far as the definition, as far as the new ordinance, that's what it says, 3 colors, right?
May I answer?
Yeah.
Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Register, I have not reviewed that part of it, but for this, I reviewed it for other clients, but I haven't looked at that in particular. For this particular development, I know that he is offering at least 2 different color palettes, and the intent is to vary between those 2.
I think what I mean by that, and maybe planning and zoning can help me out here, in the new or the new ordinances, I believe the design requires 3 different colors on one building, is that correct? Or something along those lines?
Mayor and council register, that is correct. The proposed design requirements would be 3 colors on the buildings.
Right, and so it looks like these are,
I think they have 2.
okay, 2,
There are at least
maybe.
2.
Because I thought the presentation said there was this tan color or this darker color, like me, I don't know, I guess I wasn't clear on that.
I believe in your packet, and I don't have the exact page because they didn't print out for me, I believe there may be elevations in there. And I do know we have those, where there's at least 2 different color packages. Each one has 2 colors on it, plus a slightly different colored roof.
The trim, well, we're looking at it now.
But
Okay.
I have,
Up here, right? There we go. Okay, I've got it now, thank you. Okay, and then in the presentation, it was I believe they said a density of 7.2, but originally it was like 4.4 or something along those lines. I think those are kind of all my questions as far as for the applicant. I just share the same concerns about the design and the prior project, and then landscaping and all that and the change, basically.
Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Register, I would just say one other thing about the prior delay is that there were initially some delays, and there was COVID, and there was the construction of the other building. And there was also, when you actually look through it, if you got deep into the email correspondence, there was a whole comedy of errors between miscommunication and turnover with various city staff who aren't here now, and between Mr. Giuliani, and things like, oh, well, this can just be an admin approval. Oh, never mind, it can't be. There has been, in getting up to the more recent history, there was just a lot of miscommunication and sort of back and forth, and we're certainly not blaming that on anyone at this point, but this is just where we are now. There is this investment. He went ahead and finished putting in the streets because the timing was right, that he was ready to go, and he is here ready to finish this project off and get these
Yep. And
houses
I
built.
appreciate all that you're saying. I pretty sure I remember that he didn't come to that extension meeting, and that's where those types of defenses, I guess, would have been a great place to bring it up then, instead of waiting so long and then changing, because I understand all this is done, but then changing the idea of it. If it were coming back in with single-family homes, I don't know how that would what that would be like, but I share a concern about, or I guess it's my concern about having the apartments there and now having duplexes there and having that not be very aesthetically pleasing for that neighborhood.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the presentation. So I don't know whether or not you got to turn around and look at Mr. Giuliani and get a wink and a nod and an okay, but would he be willing to add additional paint colors as options other than the two that are on there?
Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Dittenber, I would absolutely have to turn around and get a wink and a nod or a discussion from him, or I could just ask him to come up here, because I know he's happy to speak about these.
Yeah, any other questions for Elizabeth before we move on? Okay, John, sure. If you could state name and
Yeah.
and address.
Yep. John Giuliani, 2618 South KCAD here in Caldwell. So, appreciate the opportunity. I'll just orient you to the agenda. And I know it's deep in there, it's pages 54 through 59 is where we have the color schemes. And so there are 3 colors. You know, there's base, and then there's trim colors, and there's 3 different versions. And on the plat, it's color coded as well, so to illustrate variation. And the plat would be on page, I'll have to kind of get to that, but we have it, that is also submitted in terms of how it's oriented. I can get, it's on, let's see here, I think that's the next one. Yeah, so that would be on page, I think, 48. So 48 is a legend, if you will, and then the other pages are illustrations of the color palette, which are earth tones.
Ours might be a little different because we got a lot more in there.
676 through 670.
676.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there's a lot more on there.
Sure, all right.
But it'd be showing us the meaning on that. Do you have any other questions, Councilor?
Mayor and council, this is Daniel Sharp. I'd like to have a follow-up opportunity here, if you wouldn't mind. The comment was raised about the kind of lack of concern about the subdivision from our team. I was part of that lack of concern. We were told at staff by that time that we did not need to be at the meeting, that it was administrative. That was part of that miscommunication that occurred at that time. We would have certainly been there had we not been told that. And so we've apologized for that, and for that lack of communication. And I think on the screen that I've put up here, you can see those renderings to address the color changes that are there. You need to look at the garage side, which will be fronting the street. On both of these two, on the darker scheme, there is a dark color and a white color up on the upper portion, as well as the roof shingles themselves are a third color scheme that might satisfy your request for requirements there. Additionally, on the other color scheme, kind of the more sand colored scheme, there are 3 colors on that one as well, though they're not as evident. The upper gable portion of the roof is more of a darker color.
Sorry, I do have one more question. Are the duplexes for sale as the single-family homes would be, or are they rentals?
The duplexes will be part of the rental community Canyon Crossing. So they'll be managed by the same management company that manages the other properties.
Were the original single-family homes going to be rentals?
Yes,
So that whole area was going to be rentals, even if they were single-family homes?
correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do not see any.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. So you will have a chance for rebuttal after we get through everyone. So, there's nobody signed up neutral. We do have a few people signed up in opposition. Phyllis, so if you want to please come forward, and then if you just state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony.
Okay, I am Phyllis Jewett. I live at 403 Hill Lane. I asked her to come up because I can't hear very well, so I'm not sure I can hear you. All of this garbage is behind me, and I'm sick of it. I am so tired. It says, you okay him with all of us objecting, and then he does nothing, trying to sneak through what he wants, not what we want. This has been going on since 2016. When is enough enough? It looks like a weedy mess. It's awful. And we have had SWAT team up there, I don't know how many times with those stupid apartments. I mean, it's awful having somebody behind you with guns. I had my neighbor call me and say, please lock your door, because we don't know what's going on. We had the SWAT team from Nampa, the SWAT team from Caldwell. There was a SWAT team right behind my fence with guns pointed towards the apartments. We would love to have affordable senior housing only. No more garbage he has built before. They look like what do you want to call it? Army barracks. and it's just, we're tired of looking at it. I want also on the record, he stated the last time that we were here that I was encroaching on his property, and I am not. I had my property surveyed in 1967 by Davenport Engineering. That was before the freeway was in. It was just a 2-lane road. The pin was in the middle of the road, and that's what they did all of the surveying on. So I believe what they did, that they knew what they were doing. All he gives us is excuses, excuses. The sad part is you can't believe anything he says. We have a wonderful neighborhood. I have been in my house since April 15th, 1965. It was Easter Sunday. Thank you.
Sorry about that, but I'll turn my mic on. Thank you so much, appreciate that. I don't see any questions, so. Next on the list is Terry Kohler. And again, if you could state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes as well for your testimony.
I have handouts.
Yes, please, if you could bring those up.
Evening.
And then if you don't mind waiting just until we can get these all handed out.
Thank you.
That way you can have undivided attention during your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much. So again, if you could just state your name and address for the record, and remember that you will have 3 minutes on that, and the time
How
will
come
be
he gets
up on
10
there.
and I only get 3?
So the applicant does get.
I know, I'm just,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
I'm Terry Kohler, address 111 South Louisiana Avenue, Caldwell. I'm here with your consent at the April 7th, 2025 City Council meeting regarding the Canyon Crossing subdivision case. For my comments, please reference the following documents I've given to each of you. Full comments by Terry Kohler, which I was not able to read in the allotted 3 minutes. Highlighted portions of the examiner's minutes, hearing examiner's minutes from December 3, 2024. A letter to neighbor, in quotes, from John Giuliani dated March 1, 2018. And the last one are quotes from Dan Sharp, the engineer, from our July 2024 neighborhood meeting That's the one with the orange highlights. The new comprehensive plan states on page 94 that Caldwell's neighborhoods are designed with a quality of life in mind. Well, we already had that quality of life in our quiet, affordable little section of Caldwell until City Council voted almost 10 years ago to let John Giuliani build all these high-density rentals a few yards from single-family homes. Jerome Mapp, the first hearing examiner, who was out of Boise, had the audacity to tell us that these higher-density apartments were good for our neighborhood. He failed to explain to us how he came to that conclusion. Please try asking the permanent tax-paying members and residents in my neighborhood. The vast majority would agree that that was a false claim. In fact, some of my neighbors, my friends, moved away in no small part because of this. Since I moved here in 1996 with my Caldwell-born, Parma-raised husband, I was happy enough with the job that City Council was doing. Caldwell is a nice town, and it's not Ada County. The only time I recall coming to City Council was when you honored Elaine Leppert, the longtime director of the library, where I volunteered hundreds of hours for 15 years, and I too wanted to honor Elaine. Then John Giuliani entered my life, and since then you've seen lots of me at council meetings angry about what you allowed him to do. We had hundreds of signatures. We had filled the room, and we were disregarded in 2016. For 30 years, I've built friendships with neighbors and made changes to our home and tried to best create a safe environment for my special needs daughter for the eventual day when my 71-year-old husband and I, who am 65, are but a memory. But in one 5-minute decision today, the council will seriously impact her safety and that of her eventual special needs roommates by permitting 30 more rentals, a football field away from my house, easily accessible down the alley behind our house. I do not have enough time allotted to detail my concerns, so I will summarize them and provide you with the rest of my testimony. Number one, the hearing examiner's findings of December 3, 2024 do not follow Idaho State Code, therefore must be disregarded by City Council in your decision. Two, multiple delays seem to indicate that the developer does not have the interest of our neighborhood in mind. Further, I suggest a pattern of intentionality to delay on Phase 2 and lack of intention to fulfill the compromise by City Council created between him and my neighborhood, as evidenced as far back as the 2018 letter requesting elimination of all single-family homes. That was in 2018. His stated reason for this is a major insult. This is from the hearing examiner's, the current hearing examiner's decision. His stated reason for this is a major insult to Caldwell. In response to the current hearing examiner's questions, Mr. Giuliani stated that he did not do single-family homes because a lot of people cannot afford them. Well, ours is a very affordable part of town compared to other portions, so I consider his statement just plain garbage. Even greater numbers.
Sorry, I noticed that at the time, did we have a timer that did?
It's right.
Gotta get the buzz.
You can read the
to go
rest
off.
of it there if you want to.
So you go ahead and finish up your last statement.
Yeah, it's
and
just
then we'll
right there
stand
to
for
the end. You
questions.
can read it if you want to, or it's up to you. Ours is a very much affordable part of town, so I can, anyway. Number three, even greater numbers of higher density rentals are in no way in the best interest of our neighborhood. Conclusion, please deny the developer of Canyon Crossing this major change and request the original 15 single-family homes built in Phase 2. As an aside, we hope the tax-paying permanent residents of Caldwell matter more to you than this Missoula, Montana developer. He never tells you where he lives. As an aside, may I politely but adamantly request that the Caldwell City Council consider adopting financial penalties that may be imposed on future developers that treat the city leadership and permanent tax-paying residents of Caldwell with such blatant disregard. Thank you for your consideration.
Are there any questions? Okay, I don't see any. Okay, thank you so much. Carol Jones? And again, Carol, if you could just state your name and address.
I do have a handout, Madam Chair.
Okay.
While they're doing that, I know that you were the senior planner in 2015. How many of this council were here at that time?
So, do you mind going on to the microphone?
I'm
'Cause-
sorry.
Yes.
We don't have to,
Do we have a or a beep or a timer that can go off on it? Okay, awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so if
we
if you
don't
could
have to be under oath anymore?
nope, so you just gotta state your name
So I
and your
could lie
address.
and you guys wouldn't care?
We hope you tell the
No,
truth, so that's
I'm
the
not.
goal. So, name and address, and then after that is when your time will start.
Carol L. Jones, 2811 Hillcrest Lane, Caldwell, Idaho. A decade ago, this 15 acres, now known as Canyon Crossing, was started by John Giuliani of Missoula, Montana, registered agent and owner of MTP Acquisition 460 Florida LLC. A lack of credibility has plagued this project from its inception. Giuliani's 2015 application stated he owned the property. The required deed in planning and zoning's file was listed as received, yet the file deed listed a different owner. Shortly thereafter, that property deed was replaced with a different deed which bore the exact same document number. In the file, no mention of the deed replacement was noted. Thus began what Mr. Giuliani's representative at hearing December 3rd, 2024, stated was a comedy of errors. I, for one, as a 50-year resident of this neighborhood, fail to find the humor in the subsequent actions of this developer over the last 10 years. He has attempted to change the designated use of the property at least 10 times, and in November 2015 requested a decision reconsideration. The Caldwell zoning ordinance has no provisions for reconsideration. They have contested hearing procedures under Article 5. These provisions require appeal within 15 days of the final decision. Idaho statutes under Title 67 of the Local Planning Act require reconsideration within 14 days of the final decision. The council made their final decision on October 19th. Todd Lakey, his attorney's request for reconsideration is dated November 13th. That would be 25 days after the council decision to deny the application. Giuliani has challenged on this property every zoning designation, city code, existing comp plan, hearing examiner recommendation, city council decision, and even the integrity of the residents of this neighborhood. I question why that December 3rd, 24 hearing was even held when the comprehensive plan in effect at that time disallowed the density being requested without a PUD. Should recommendations and decisions be made in anticipation of some future change or anticipated regulation? One would hope not. Idaho's Secretary of State records show MTP Acquisition has had several administrative revocations, each ultimately reinstated, however. All of his corporate documents list Idaho business addresses for John Giuliani, not his Montana residence address. What is the reason for that? Did John Giuliani intentionally allow...
Go ahead and
My
finish
time
just
up?
that last statement.
May I
and then-
finish?
So not the whole thing, but you can
You know,
finish that last
the
statement.
second page was scheduled to be read by another neighbor who had a stroke the day before yesterday and couldn't be here. So that's why I'm going over. Is that okay if I finish?
Could you just summarize it? Is that all right, rather than just read it on that? Because obviously the council can read it, so we just summarize and what the last part is.
Could you use some of Pastor Mike's recommendation for compassion and let me finish?
So we just have to be
You can?
consistent throughout. I know that we didn't have the timer for Ms. Kohler, or the beeper to go off, and I missed that, so.
Okay.
If you could just summarize it.
Is there
and then-
anybody here willing to read it? Not you,
So-
John. Okay.
So just the
To
high
try
points.
to hit the, okay, well, Terry mentioned that the March 18th letter and that he wrote to the neighborhood indicates he never intended to build single-family homes on the property. He shows right there that he intended duplexes. And, you know, 10 years ago, he purchased a property in an older established R1 zone neighborhood full of senior citizens and other residents of modest means. He knew the existing zoning designation of that property, just as he knew the limited means of those living in his targeted area. And my concern, and I hope you'll bear with me, has this council become a target? I think throwing out decisions that have been made by this council, and that was condition of approval, was the density transition. And that's because it was R1. He's the one that requested the R2 zone. That's how it got changed to R2. And he agreed at the time to do the transition. And now he's backsliding and expecting you to just push away the decision that has been made already by this body. And I think it shows a lack of respect. I urge you to determine that he should renew the preliminary plat as he proposed back in 2016 and comply with the conditions of approval.
Perfect. So
Please maintain the integrity of this council and its decisions.
Thank you. So let's
Thank-
get into, are there any questions from council?
Thank you for your time. I hope you'll
Okay.
read my
Thank you, Carol.
entire
Yes, and they
statement.
do,
I'm
so-
sorry, I'm
Nope.
shaky, but
You're totally fine, so, okay. And then Sue Kushlin. So Sue, if you could, you got some handouts. And then if you could state your name and address, and then I did say, heard you say there were some repetitive, so I'd recommend
I'm-
avoiding the
I'm going to try
repetition
really
and
hard.
stick within that
I'll
3-minute
probably go
timeline.
right over the top of it.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Sue Kushlon, 121 South Louisiana, Caldwell, Idaho. Good evening. Again, we are before you. There's only 4 of the neighborhood left. We have been attending planning and zoning hearings, council meetings, and neighborhood meetings since 2015. To say that there has been no opposition to this after all of these years is not a true statement. In 2016, the development agreement was approved by the hearing examiner, Mr. Mapp. It was done so with a condition of approval that Phase 2 transition from fourplexes to duplexes to single-family dwellings to better fit in with the R1 that surrounds it on 3 sides. It was approved with these conditions by the city council. At the time of the request for the second extension, that condition of approval was still applicable as per the development agreement of 2016. Now he wants all duplexes. Okay, we know that. On July 29th, if you look at the picture on the front of your packet, there was a neighborhood meeting given by the engineer, Dan Sharp, on the new proposed changes to the plat. At this time, this change was being proposed. The new comp plan hadn't even been approved. The engineer said, and I quote, "The fact of the matter is, city's code and comp plan not just requires, but encourages high density in this zoning," end quote. Remember, this meeting was July 29th, and the new comp plan was not approved until February 18th, 2025. Notice in the picture I provided the posture and body language he is exhibiting. Very confrontational as far as I'm concerned. And throughout the meeting, he kept this posture. It wasn't a friendly face. On the December 3rd Planning and Zoning hearing, the senior planner stated, and I quote, "It will still transition from fourplexes to duplexes to single-family homes in the R1 across the street, which is Syringa. There is still a transition," end quote. That property is not even considered in this whole project. You can't include that, I don't think. The transition was meant to be within the property in question and not the land across the street owned by someone else. Mr. Giuliani and his representatives claimed letting the first extension expire was due to COVID infrastructure issues, capital issues, and they ran up against the deadline. If that was indeed true, why or how was he able to finish another subdivision and build the MTP plant on KCID in Linden? Mr. Giuliani claims we as a neighborhood never agreed with any of the ideas he had for the property. There have been so many proposed, and if you look on the last page of your packet,
So if you could go ahead and just wrap up that last thought, and then we'll get into questions.
Those were, yeah, I'm almost done. The truth is, from the beginning in 2016, we agreed with the conditions of approval to have the transition. It seemed like the best option for our neighborhood. And I remind you that there is R1 on 3 sides of that end of the development, so homes would fit in fine. And I also remind you that John Giuliani is an out-of-state developer. His engineer is from eastern Idaho, and I have heard through the grapevine that the builder is from out of state also, who's actually going to do the building.
Okay,
That's it.
any questions? Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Councilor Register?
I was just looking at the last page and just wondering if you could,
All of the different changes?
well, yeah, briefly, what does this all mean?
It means that throughout from 2015 to current, he has changed his mind that many times for what he wanted to do with the property.
On that lot, wanted to put,
The first half is for where the fourplexes are, and the second half of them, phase 2 is, he originally was going to have 31 residential lots and 5 common, 25 single-family homes and 5 common, fourplexes, duplexes, and single-family homes, 5 duplexes, 15 family homes, and now 20 duplexes. That's all concerning phase 2, from the research that myself and the neighbors have done. And there might even be more, we just can't remember them all. It's been 10 years and we're all old.
I know, I have one other question. I know you probably have no way of knowing this, but in this picture, there's the graffiti on the fence.
Oh, that was long gone.
But I mean, but my question is that a problem that continues from the apartments, or is it?
Nope, we haven't had
Just-
any graffiti on any of the fences or the freeway wall for a long time.
Okay, great, thank you.
And they were taken care of literally the day after.
Thank you.
He was good with that.
That's good to hear. Very good. I don't see any other questions, so, okay, thank you so much. That is all that is signed up to speak. So now we will have opportunity for rebuttal, so whoever would like to do that, please come forward, and then you'll have 3 minutes for your rebuttal as well, and then if there's any questions also at the end of that time.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We've heard, there's been a lot of back and forth with this neighborhood since the beginning of this. And I know what John would love most is to not come back before you with this development again. Really, ever. We would really like to have the opportunity to finally, the infrastructure is in, it meets all the city code requirements. He has tried to be a good landlord. As you just heard, the graffiti has immediately come down. Obviously, I mean, it's always scary to hear about something happening with a SWAT team in your neighborhood. That's clearly something, it sounds like it happened. It hasn't happened since. We don't know the ins and outs of that sort of thing. That's also now on the adjacent property, and we're now talking about a new standalone plat. This plat, it meets all of the city code requirements. It even appears to meet the new updated design review guidelines that have not yet been adopted. It's a good place for the location. It provides that transition. It goes from the higher density along the freeway to the fourplexes, to the duplexes, to the adjacent single family. Duplexes are allowed in the code. We do think that this does meet all of the requirements for a preliminary plat. And we are excited to just move on, like get this done and move on to other things to get these built. So, thank you.
Very good. Questions? Are there any questions, Councilor? What's that?
Staff and whoever else, so I don't know if you're ready for those.
So are there any questions for Elizabeth or Councilor Allgood? Do you have any questions at this time for the applicant?
No, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, if there's none, then motion to close public testimony for this item. And a second, so that's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. So public testimony portion is closed, so that moves it into deliberation by council. And yes, any questions of staff as well. Councilor Doty.
Thank you. First of all, it isn't that we are not hearing you or listening to you. I understand your frustration, Sue. It's clear, and only because I know Sue the most, that your frustration with this subdivision, we've heard you testify about it before, but maybe more towards the attorney too. But when we hear about SWAT team responses, and I get those can be very frustrating, and out-of-state developers, those are not a finding of fact. Those have no bearing on whether or not you can approve or disapprove a subdivision. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Right, so even though we prefer in-state developers, we can't hold it against him that he's from an out-of-state area. We can't hold it against folks when the police respond. And are there any variances, waivers, or amendments to anything he's asked for? This 100% qualifies under the current plan.
There are no requests for waivers or modification. It meets the current code as well as the comprehensive plan.
And then one more question from our attorney. Again, you've already answered this, but just to be clear, we cannot consider with the new comp plan and/or ordinances that will go along with that. We have to do it under the current ordinances and comp plan when the application was submitted.
That's correct.
So I guess my question to other counselors then, if the vote is no, what is the finding of fact that would be a no vote, or what has qualified for him not to qualify for his request? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, appreciate that.
I-
Okay, so. is there-
Question.
oh,
Yeah,
yes,
for the
Councilor
attorney
Register.
then. If this is done, like Counselor Doty just said, it meets all the requirements, what are we doing? Why are we here? Why are we hearing this? If we don't, if the decision, if what I'm hearing is, the question was, if you vote no, then how can you vote no if it meets all the requirements? So is there a reason why we're hearing it at all, if it meets everything? And
Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Register, the hearing is to hear to establish the facts. Once the facts are established, to apply those facts to the ordinance and the comprehensive plan as we have them. So once the facts are established and heard by the council and voted on, that's what the council is here for.
okay. The facts being the plan?
Yes, what's being presented as far as the plan and the application, we have our ordinance. There has to be a reason in the ordinance based on the facts that the council finds that wouldn't comply with what it, and would lead to a denial.
Okay. Well, I feel like that's a lot of circle there, and I'm not a lawyer, but I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, there are things about this development that I don't like. I don't like the design. I don't like the landscaping plan. I don't like the fact that it's changed so many times. There's a lot of things to it. So can any of those go towards denying the project, or we just have to approve it? Because I feel like we do this a lot, where people come and they talk and they invest themselves, and then the answer is, well, we have to do it.
I'm not exactly sure what your question is, Counselor.
Trying to help me out here. Maybe I'm not explaining myself. Do we have to approve this, period?
You're asking a very difficult question. You're asking some procedural questions on a whole. You've been presented the application packet, and we have the ordinance that's been passed that's current, and the comp plan that we have that's current. And if the criteria that are met that are in those, then it leads to an approval decision. There needs to be a basis for not following the plan that's laid out ahead of time in order to vote a denial. And maybe, I don't want to put her on the spot, but maybe the director can add more to that if she'd like to.
Mayor and Council Register, in the ordinances, there are approval criteria for subdivision plats. One is that, it conforms with the comprehensive plan. And I think there was some other criteria that we had discussed earlier in a different email regarding subdivisions, and I can pull those criteria up. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but The reason this comes before council is because staff goes ahead and reviews it per the code, but only council has the authority to determine if they are in compliance with those findings after you've heard the facts. And all the facts have to be presented because public testimony is required so that everybody can provide evidence to the record. And that's why those come before council, but council is limited to making their approval based on that criteria that's in the code. And if council chooses to deny it, then council would have to give a reason why they're denying it and how the applicant could fix it so that they could come back before council for approval.
Councilor Stoddard?
I happen to be on that council in the past, and one of the major things that got my vote of no was the trust factor, because what was said and what was done, two different things. The relationship with the taxpayers was not the best I've ever seen. It was one of the worst, and it just didn't fit with the single-family dwellings at that time, and that's the reason I voted no the first time around, and I will not vote again for those reasons. And I don't know, Oscar, if that's good enough, but for me it is. So, definitely a trust factor there.
Councilor Dittenberg?
First of all, Ms. Jewett, I want to recognize you as one of the truly icons of our community. You are a great and outstanding citizen, and the name is truly recognizable as a stalwart member of our community. I think this is a true testament to the argument that we need to pass the new comprehensive plan as soon as possible. A special meeting to do it, whatever the case may be. If we want new standards, we have to have a new plan to do new standards. I think this is particularly difficult because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and I really think the project should have been better. It's on our corridor, and it just should have looked better. Having said that, the difficulty is they've met the burden under the law, and makes it extremely difficult to weigh whether or not we want to abide by the law and the applicant has met the requirements of the law, or whether or not we punish somebody for having a potentially ugly project that will potentially be ugly again. So that's it.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take a stab at it. The quasi-judicial system exists in that we are the judges adjudicating this case based on the facts that are presented to us. So we don't necessarily get to have our personal opinions so much as we are the finders of fact. Is that a fair summary in short, Counselor, for what I'm trying to say here?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and so I am sympathetic to the public because we do hear you. I'm grieved that so often people think we don't hear you, but we have to make a ruling, a finding of fact, much like a judge would in a courtroom, even though there would be people in the courtroom aggrieved in the process. So the only question I have, and maybe this is for staff over here to clarify what we sort of mentioned earlier, is the change in the DA enough to deny it? Could we deny it based on the requirement that we hold to the original DA or not?
Mayor and Councilor Williams, I'm going to take a stab at this, but legal counsel might have to jump in. So the original DA really didn't mention anything for, if I'm correct, it didn't mention anything with the type of dwelling units or anything that was happening. on the property.
It did not prohibit a duplex or a single family. It just simply said you must adhere to the application number, which was, oh, sorry, it's 'cause I think we both have them on. Just said adhere to the finding of the application number, which was 5 duplex lots and 15 single family. I do believe that the hearing examiner at one of the previous meetings had made a condition. Oh, that's like a noise over here, sorry. It's distracting. Had made a condition of approval at a previous hearing that the second phase did include duplex lots, did include the 5 duplex lots to transition from the fourplex. But there was no language specific in the DA. So I believe you could probably, I'll look to Robin, but I think that you could approve it with the condition that they adhere to the original, 15-5 split if you wanted. You could just approve it and add that condition.
So, I'm sorry, I think I understand, but I want to be perfectly clear. The 15-5 split then would be 5 duplexes, 15
Single family.
single-family homes, because that's what it originally was.
Correct.
And so that is the one legal finding of fact that we could argue for denying it.
Not for denying it. I think you would approve it with the condition that it adhere to the original development agreement of 5 duplex and 15 single family, because nothing has to change to the plat. The plat is identical. It's just a matter of what they actually construct on it. So you could put that condition in. You would approve the project with the added condition that they adhere to the original development agreement of 5 duplex units and 15 single family.
And could we include in that condition then a design review, since we don't have any idea of what those single-family homes would look like since they're not included in this presentation?
You could.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Register, do you have another question?
Yeah, I've seen in some of the packets, sometimes they say that the property does not conform to the surrounding property. Is that not a thing? Or is that a?
I believe in the staff report, it said that it provided a transition from the fourplex units to the single family, and that it was an infill parcel, and discussed that that was anticipated to have some variety of housing types in an infill project.
So I guess that my question is, if the council finds that it's not suitable for the surrounding properties, is that enough for a denial?
I could defer to Robin.
Mayor and Council Register, I guess what I'll do is read what the approval criteria is for the preliminary plat. And again, I will echo what Councilor Dittenber said, is that this is actually one of the reasons why we are wanting to propose amendments to the code, because we currently don't have any design review standards or multifamily development code currently. So for a preliminary plat, the approval criteria is that the plat is in compliance with city code. The plat is consistent with the city comprehensive plan. Public services and utilities are available or can be made available and are adequate to accommodate the proposed subdivision. The plat is consistent with the city transportation master plan, and that the subdivision is preserving any natural, scenic, or historic features on the site that is being developed, if applicable. Those are the only approval criteria that council has to approve or deny this project, because it is simply a preliminary plat subdivision. The other options are to put some conditions on the development agreement for some type of design review or aesthetic features.
Perfect. Counselor Olga, did you have any questions?
I actually just had a statement, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So I was part of the council when this first project was approved, as they were saying, almost 10 years ago. And I have regretted it ever since. The applicant did not do as he said. He has been in totally disregard for his neighbors. He was out of compliance many times. I had a number of discussions with our former planning and zoning director about the lack of compliance on his previous project. the pretty pictures we see of this new development that we're discussing tonight are recent. For years, it has been a lot full of weeds and dirt piles. They say the tot lot was in part 2, but I disagree with that. The tot lot was expected years ago. In my experience, this applicant does not do what he says, and I'm a no vote based on his prior history of development in our city. If this does pass, I would ask for stringent oversight because, like I said, there is a history of lack of compliance. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Any other discussion, or is there any motions? Councilor Dittenber.
This is a question for planning staff. Is there a development agreement currently, or was there a development agreement in 2018 with regards to this project?
Yes, there is a development agreement on this property from the original entitlements in 2016.
So when Councilor Allgood talks about a more strict oversight on the development agreement, what would a more strict oversight on a development agreement look like?
I believe you'd have to ask him his intent on that.
Mayor and Councilor Dittenberg, I think a stricter oversight on the development agreement would be if there were specifics in there. Like we have seen in some development agreements where council would put conditions on, like you've talked about, like a certain number of materials, or I think in the past we've had prohibiting vinyl siding, or that they have to landscape a certain way, and or that the buildings have to be designed a certain way. And so that oversight would come from the planning and zoning staff when the building permits come in, that we require those elevations and that we're looking at those to make sure they're in compliance with the development agreement. Unfortunately, this development agreement that was done back in 2016 did not have any real specific criteria for staff to look at other than what the approvals were for.
Do you have a follow-up?
Does that answer your question?
I do. No, you answered it, but there's another question here somewhere, and so let me see if I can spit it out where you can answer it. Does a development agreement then trump code? And if we were to impose or ask for a new development agreement, would it trump the code that currently exists that they're planning on developing under?
Mayor and Councilor Dittenberg, a development agreement can impose additional conditions in certain instances on a development. That's the reason you have a development agreement. Somewhere along the lines, a development agreement was required. The thing you have to be careful with is, like, we couldn't, like the question about making them conform to the draft ordinances, we cannot make a condition on something that hasn't been adopted yet. So if you wanted to make conditions, you would have to be very specific in what you want to see on those, but we couldn't say we want them to conform with what's being proposed in the draft ordinance, if that makes sense.
Okay, Councilor Doty?
So I have a follow-up. I don't disagree with what the council's saying, but if not this, then what? So, like, what is Councilor Allgood's suggestion for them, that he would have to sell his property? I mean, he'll never approve one, and is that enough for a finding of fact? Or Councilor Stoddard or anybody else that is convincing me that this isn't a good player? I mean, what is the solution to your no then? So if he's following all the laws that the city currently has in place, what is the solution? It sounds like even if we add that he goes back to the original one, there's still no votes that are still going to take place. Are those findings of facts? Can you just vote no because you don't like a way someone has developed a piece of property? I don't know. I don't think that's in the finding of facts. I think
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Yeah.
Councilor Allgood? Can you hear us, Councilor Allgood? Councilor Allgood, are you there? He's still there, right? So can you hear us, Councilor Allgood? Counselor Allgood, are you there? And he's still showing on there. Maybe should we take like a 5-minute recess and see if we can get him on that? So during this recess, please, again, this is an active discussion, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, Counselor Allgood, are you there?
I am. It dropped. I was trying to get on, but it wouldn't connect again, but I'm back on.
Okay.
So I only heard part of Counselor Doty's question. What would be my expectations? Is there something else there that I missed? I apologize.
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
I'll try and say it again in just a nutshell. If not this, then what? So if we'll never trust this developer again, if that's not a finding of fact that you can use, I guess we need some guidance there. The trust, is that a finding of fact or not? I'm not sure I've heard that written in the code, but if not this, then what? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm confident that we can't force him to sell his property, that eventually he can develop that. So if not this, then what?
So my first option would be to go to the original development agreement with single-family homes. If that was not possible, then my second would be timelines for him to accomplish all the issues such as landscaping and things like that on a timeline with penalties if they don't meet those timelines, because that was a big problem previously.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Any other discussion or anybody ready for a motion? Counselor Denver.
Mr. Mayor, before I make my motion, this is urgent that we pass the code. Based upon the finding of fact and the conclusions of law, I move that case number SPP 24-04 be approved on the condition that it adheres to the original request in the original application in 2016.
So just for clarification, so that would be with the original development agreement, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, that stated the 5 duplexes, 15 single-family lots. Is that correct? Okay. And then would there be anything additional to that I'm missing? Was there any other like design? I don't think there was design reviews, anything of that nature. It was just the 15 and the 5. 15 single-family, 5 duplexes.
That's correct. The only other condition in the development original one was that if there is a design review process at the time of submittal of applications, then they'd be required to go through design review.
Okay, very good. So does that summarize your motion then? So the motion for approval, but the approval would be based on the original approval of 5 duplexes and 15 single-family homes on the proposed preliminary plat. And, oh.
The timeline is an oversight. Does that have to be included in it?
Do you want to include anything in regards to timelines and oversight as a condition of approval?
I'm not sure that timelines and oversight are definable things, and so help me before I decide to amend or not amend my motion.
Mayor and Councilor Dittenberg, I guess the question I would ask you, and I'm sorry, I'm asking a question or I'm answering a question with a question. Are you wanting to make a motion to approve the DA mod to change the application numbers, but with the condition that it complies with the original entitlements?
That's correct.
Okay. I think you could probably add additional conditions if you want, but at this time, there's nothing for us to review against, as far as design criteria, unless you made something specific in your condition.
I'm not willing to make any special conditions. This could be another case where we come back in a couple months and go, well, we should have just acted a lot quicker in changing our code. So we may be bit twice on this project, but I'm still making the motion to approve it.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so that's a motion by Councilor Dittenberg, the second Councilor Doty, and again, that was for approval of the request, but again, tying it to the original approval of 5 duplex lots and 15 single-family lots. So any discussion on that motion? Councilor Register.
Yeah, so because of all of this conversation, the confusion, nobody's even asked him if he would be willing to go to do the, or accept that, so I don't know if we have to do that or not. I'm a no, because I think this is one of those ones that should probably be postponed and some new plan brought forward.
Any other discussion on the motion? So, okay, then, so any discussion, Counselor Allgood?
No, I appreciate the motion.
Okay, very good. So again, the motion is for approval, with the approval being tied to the original approval of 15 single-family dwellings and 5 duplex lots. So with that, we'll open voting at this time for those here in the room. And those votes are cast. So Counselor, Counselor Allgood, is it working for you?
No, the voting is not working still.
Oh, sorry. So Counselor Dittenber accidentally grabbed yours, so we'll just flip-flop them. So all votes are cast. So Counselor Allgood, as we just reveal this, what vote do you have?
I'm a yes.
You're against. Okay. So Counselor Allgood did vote against the motion.
Yes, he's a yes.
Oh, you're a yes. Did you say
Yes.
you're a yes? Okay. I apologize. I thought you said that you're against, so I'm getting old. So that motion did pass. There was one, I think it was Counselor Register was a no, and then with the 5 other voting yes. So that does pass with the condition as outlined in that regards. So with that, I stand for a motion to close this public hearing item. It's a motion from Counselor Stodic and a second from Counselor Doty. All those in favor say aye. That motion passes. So I know that we're getting close to the end, but we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute recess at this time, and we'll be right back. back? Are we live? Okay. So we are back. We appreciate allowing us to take that quick break. And so we are on to item number 5, as 4 has been pulled. And so this is basically just a housekeeping item, but this is for the new Home Depot that is under construction, so that is kind of exciting on that. But this is just an annexation into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District. Do we have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance? Councilor Williams,
Mr.
number
Mayor.
5.
I will sponsor bill number 35, ordinance number 3687, and move for the passage by title only.
Very good. And actually, there's another one, I apologize, I missed one, Bill 36, ordinance 3688.
And bill 36?
Oh, on here, on the printed agenda, it says 3688. What's that?
Okay, let's try this again. Take 2.
Very good.
I will sponsor bill number 35, ordinance number 3687, and bill number 36, ordinance number 3688. Move for their passage by title only.
So a motion from Councilor Williams and a second from Councilor Stoddard for passage of Bill 35, ordinance 3687, and Bill 36, ordinance 3688. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open at this time. And Councilor Allgood, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm a yes on this.
Okay, so he's a yes, so go ahead and we can reveal the voting, and that does pass unanimously. And that moves us into item number 6, finance report. Councilor Stoddard, I see you for your bus.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Allgood and I negotiated a real good terms here for me doing it instead of him, so, via text, by the way. So, anyway, the Finance Committee has reviewed current accounts payable. I move that accounts payable in the amount of $6,462,881.78, represented by check numbers 184592 through 185027, and electronic payments and payroll for the amount of $1,456,072.06, represented by check numbers 39847 through 39880, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. Do we have a second? Motion from Councilor Stoddard and a second from Councilor Dittenber for approval of the finance report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. That moves us into council comments. Councilor Doty.
A couple things, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the invite from Councilor Dittenberg to replace him as our schedules get busy, but Councilor Allgood, I'm going to steal some of your thunder. We went and visited the farm. What's the official name of the? Okay, out of Ada County there, and we talked about what to do with I'll phrase this, the discharge that comes from your home, and how they use that on the crops there, and the developments there to offset that versus just throwing that into the landfill. So that was, your staff that was there was great, very knowledgeable, already moving forward and keeping logs with that. And there's a couple different options with the expenses. Some are very expensive and some are not, but just moving forward with how we want to dispose of those, okay, biosolids, thank you. How we want to dispose of biosolids in the future, it could be very relevant as we continue to grow. So that was great. And then, of course, joining Councilor Dittenberg and yourself to celebrate the Yotes was also a nice evening as well. So I'll leave it on a positive note like that and pass the buck.
We'll hope they got the banner down by now, so.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Councilor Register?
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I might as well. Earlier today, I emailed the council about maybe having a discussion. I have some notes here. Surrounding that Idaho Code 676513, that does give us the authority to mitigate impacts of subdivisions based on our services. I sent it out. I've only one response came back, said it was a old and tired argument. But I'm hoping the rest of you will want to have conversations about that and see if we can come up with a policy to help us, because I think that would have taken care of the subdivision we just heard, because we are strained. We do have a lack of services, and our services are struggling, so that would have been one of those things I think we would have been able to refer to as well. So I hope to hear back on that. And then, and I agree that the codes should be changed, and those are important, but we should probably have some more safeguards in place. And then the other thing, I'm the airport council liaison now, and going to those meetings, there's been a lot of talk about what's coming, but then also public perception about what the airport is and what it does. They're sort of stuck in, unfortunately, this loop of being thought of as a hobby airport, and they want to sort of change that perception. So I have a post up, and if anybody in the public has any questions, the rumors they've heard or anything like that, they can ask those questions there, and I'll get those answered.
Thank you so much. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you know where we're at on the quiet zone? I'm sorry, I don't mean to spring that
No,
on you, but
you're-
it came up earlier in the finance, and so I thought I'd ask.
So Rob's not here. He left because he maybe knew this question was coming. So I will check with him. I know that Bruce Mills has been doing extensive work on that. And I know that he was able to do a lot of the work that they thought we'd have to farm out, and this saved us literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on that. So I know that they have been actively still pursuing that and doing it. Obviously with the railroad, nothing moves quick, as we've learned. But I know that Mr. Mills has been actively pursuing that still to see in that regards. And so I'll check with him, and then also in regards to the funding of where that is in that. So we can get you an update. We can get you an update tomorrow.
And then something we've talked about before, could you just bring us all up to date on the parking situation out there around the fairgrounds? We've talked about that, so I know you're ready for that. That's moving forward.
Yeah, it is. So, had some good meetings, and we're still trying to get that joint meeting between us and the county to just talk about the very far picture of what's out there. But yes, we have been had discussions again with Bruce Mills, with Rob, in regards to what do we need to do to make sure it's gonna work out there. They both feel because it's like, do we need to bring pit run in and get like a all-weather surface? And their thought is, until we know for sure what's happening out there this year, they'd hate to spend, $500,000 bringing that out when it's just gonna get hauled out the next year. And so they feel very comfortable just kind of leaving it how it is. And so we actually had a really great meeting today, talking with all those people that'll be part of that, our Parks and Rec director, our Public Works director, and also our Economic Development Director, just working together. We've got Deanna Center in on that as well. And everybody has their assigned tasks right now of what they're supposed to be doing and preparing for that as we get ready to take down the fencing around what I call the third softball field on the other side. So the fencing coming down, the dugout, all of that. So all of that can be used for parking, making sure we're timing it right so we can go in and cut that grass really short right before, come in and chalk so that you have these delineated. Rob has his staff already working on designs for that, so just like a really preliminary parking plan. So we'll be using all of that area where that softball field is at. And then in regards to the fair, so that area, and then also the wingtips as need be, working with, sorry, I'm gonna go on for a little bit, working with Destination Caldwell. Also, I talked to them today about using those golf carts that they have to shuttle people back and forth into downtown. We'll be using those during the fair to shuttle people back and forth from those parking locations. And then also working with the fair that they can get parking permits for areas closer to the 4-H area. So if there are 4-H kids that need to be closer, have their trailers there, we'll have designated areas for that, and they'll get those parking permits from the fair. And then as we move into the rodeo and the football season, then taking more of that Gabiola field and being able to turn some of that into parking. Just a small portion for the rodeo, because obviously the majority is used by the Cowboys. And then as we go into the college football games, we can use that entire area of Gabiola field for parking as needed. So it's all moving along really nice. Like I said, we got people on the design right now, working together on timelines to make sure we all get it in place. There's a lot going on. So, yeah. Yes, our golf course. Did I say destination? Our golf course that they get to use. Yes. Yep, very accurate. Counselor Dittenberg.
All right, it's great to be here at the end where, I get a back cleanup and all the things that are on my mind. I think Counselor Doty wanted you to start from this side and work the other way sometimes, so he'll have some things to say. First of all, the Rice House is at a point where anybody who wants to see it can see it. Anybody who wants to call us and go through, they can look at it and see the progress that we've made. But I really want to compliment the planning staff, now that they're over there chatting and not listening, for doing such a good job on the comp plan. I think they've done a lot of hard work. You guys get criticized from all angles about your effort, but I think you guys are moving in the right direction, and I really appreciate your efforts. I think you guys are the unsung heroes of the city, especially in this time where we're trying to figure out what the identity of Caldwell is, so thank you. Here, a few months ago, Councilor Doty and I walked the Blaine and Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, looking at the sidewalks, and we had a lot of grievances about the sidewalks, but I've noticed that there's new patches of sidewalk. So where is Bruce? Is he the one who's responsible for changing those out? Because I gotta tell you, I'm impressed with the work that's been done on the sidewalks. And Farmway Village, the place that's been providing agricultural housing, turns 85 years old at our next city council meeting. So we've been providing agricultural housing for 85 years. And then finally, this is a question that maybe somebody can answer, Mr. Mayor, or maybe Debbie. Several months ago, 6 months ago, there was some parking lot initiative, and I believe that has run its course. And is there any truth to the rumors that there was only 70 or 60 of the 800 required signatures for the parking lot initiative?
I don't know, but I saw Debbie shaking her head, so I think she knows.
I have not heard as to how many signatures were on there, but I do know that it's expired. I did contact the elections office to make sure that there was no further action on it, and there was not anything officially submitted with the necessary amount of signatures from the author of that petition, which was Mr. Eric Phillips. So at this point, there is no further action on it.
Anything else? So, and tonight, actually, you won't get the last word because I accidentally skipped Councilor Allgood. So, no, that was my bad. I just didn't see him. So, Councilor Allgood, any comments from you?
Just briefly, I missed the tour of the new St. Luke's building, but it looks great going up out there. I wish them the best. Also, the walls are up on the new Home Depot. It's coming right along. It's pretty exciting. And I'm still waiting for a Texas Roadhouse. We need that out there just as soon as possible.
We have been talking with them and telling them the exact same thing, so we're in hopes for that as well. So, anything else, Councilor Allgood?
No, thank you.
Okay, and then for me, I'll just kind of say yes. The College of Idaho was a lot of fun. Appreciate those that were able to be there. So excited for them. They're having such, incredible success and beyond basketball in all aspects of their sports and everything they're doing. So it's a great partnership we have with them. Appreciate them and what they mean to this Caldwell community, and for decades really that they've been doing that. So with that is all that I have for this evening. So we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at this time.